What really happened at 284 Green Street?
The events have now inspired a new Apple TV Plus docudrama, The Enfield Poltergeist, which is out tomorrow.
Yeah, and two people who feature are the cousin of the family, Paul Burcombe, and news reporter Roz Morris. You've both spent time at the house. Morning to both of you.
Morning. Thank you for joining us.
Nice to see you. So, Paul, you were the cousin of Janet and Margaret, the sisters, at the heart of the story. You live around the corner from the family. When did you first become aware of what they were going through?
It was one evening that Peggy, my aunt, came down to our house, quite hysterical and very upset. And she said there was noises going on in the upstairs of the house. And I asked if we could go down there. And I don't know why. I don't know what I was going to achieve. I went with my dad. How
old were you at the time?
I was 13.
Yeah.
And we only lived a few doors down from them. And I went down to the house and we went upstairs and in the back bedroom, there's a very large oak wardrobe, and it'd been moved into the centre of the room. And that was the start of it, really. The whole house was just really... The atmosphere was terrible. Very scary.
As a 13-year-old and your dad, were you just thinking, what are they winding us up? What are they talking about? You know, did you go in, like, with an open mind, or did you go in just thinking...
I think there was an open mind. We didn't know what was going on.
Yeah.
And I think we were sceptical of what's going on. But really, it was like, we need to know what's going on here, because obviously the girls were really scared.
Right.
And so was Peggy, was very upset. And it was just a really terrible, cold atmosphere in the house.
And she was like a single mum with her two children.
Yeah.
That must have been so, so frightening.
Yeah.
But you actually witnessed a sofa flip, didn't you?
Yeah.
When you say flip, did it flip upside down or flip all the way around?
OK. What happened was we was all in the lounge. And the houses are very small. The lounge was quite a small room. And there's a leather two-seater. And it literally flipped and turned itself upside down. And that's...
In front of your eyes?
Yeah. Yeah.
What do you do then? Surely you just run home, or I mean, because that's terrifying.
Yeah.
I think at that stage, what we were all trying to do was support the family, and we were trying to get answers to what was going on, and that was really the important thing. And that's, I suppose, what me and my dad were trying to do, was support, because Margaret and that didn't have a dad.
Yeah.
And that's what we was trying to do.
You see Janet Witness move across the room, right?
Yeah.
What happened?
OK, it was in the same area, the same lounge, and what she was on like an old-fashioned wooden chair, and she had her feet off the ground, resting on like the plinths at the bottom.
Yeah.
And she literally moved across the room, and then she flipped off the chair. But her feet weren't on the ground at all, and she was very relaxed. But she went across the room and then flipped over.
So did they move in with you after a while?
No, they stayed there.
They stayed there?
Because we had Morris Gross was the investigator, and he was there most of the time supporting them. And there was lots of people there to support
So
them.
was it happening every single day, or just ad hoc, like every week, or how would it...
Alison, I can't really go back in that much detail because it's so long ago, but at the start it was very intense, and there was things happening nearly all the time.
And what's mad is the police were called out.
Yeah.
They didn't want to have anything to do with it, did they?
Initially it was really the press who came down, the BBC came down, then people were starting to get involved, because we just wanted answers, really.
Well, someone who did get involved was you, Roz, because you were reporting on this. So it was a quiet day in the newsroom, wasn't it? And you didn't have anything to report on. Tell us what happened.
Well, I was working for BBC Radio 4 World This Weekend, which goes out on a Sunday, so we're all there on the Saturday preparing the programme, and the Daily Mirror had a headline, The House of Strange Happenings. They'd sent people to the house and they did a report on it, and they said Lego bricks flew around and all sorts of things had happened. Anyway, there wasn't enough to fill the programme, and I was threatened all day, if nothing else happens, you'll have to go to Enfield and do this ghost story. So nothing happened, so I went off to Enfield, and I was quite sort of sceptical when I arrived, but I interviewed Mrs Hodgson and Maurice Gross, the man from the Psychical Research Society, who was there, and met the girls. And anyway, after the girls went to sleep, there was this massive bang upstairs, and it appeared that while they were asleep, a chair had moved across the room. Now, I didn't see it, but it did sound fairly strange. Anyway, I did a report about that, and then I went back over several months doing a radio documentary about it, and then I recorded the knocking on the walls and the strange voices that the girls seemed to produce. I didn't actually myself see anything move, but I definitely talked to a lot of people who said they had.
Because obviously, as a journalist, you're turning up there. I think you'd be naturally curious and a bit sceptical about anything, wouldn't you? That's kind of what a journalist does. They're there to ask questions. And also you've got a reputation at stake, so you don't want to go back to the newsroom and go, guys, I've got the scoop. Do you know what I mean? So it must have been sort of, in a strange way, sort of like doubly hard for you, because you almost kind of detach from it and you want to be as objective as possible.
Well, yes. I mean, somebody asked me, was it really scary? And I said, well, yes, it was in some ways, because if you just hear mysterious knockings going up the stairs and nobody can work out where they come from, and if you hear these strange, deep voices that seem to come from the girls. That was quite scary, but I was so concentrating on getting the recordings for the radio, I didn't have time to be scared, you know, till afterwards, so to speak.
Yeah. What would you say to people who are watching who would think it was a hoax? Because, I mean, there was a famous photo of Janet, and it looked like she was flying through the air, but some people might say she was jumping off the bed. What would you say to those people who are very cynical and don't believe?
I think people are going to be sceptical and cynical, and that's quite right. We were sceptical at the beginning, and I would say watch the documentary, because it does address that.
Yeah.
And I think it's very balanced. It gives both sides of the argument. And I think people have to make their own minds up, but I think we should question what happens. But at the time, I know what I saw. I know how I felt.
Yeah.
That will never leave me, and I will stand by what happened.
Why do you think this story still captivates people today?
Well, the point about it is that, funnily enough, poltergeists have been reported over the centuries, and similar things have happened in lots of cases, going back hundreds of years. In fact, the first report's from the Roman Empire. So there's a lot of evidence that there's something weird going on every now and then, and with things being thrown around and people not knowing what's going on and so on. And virtually everything that could happen in a poltergeist case happened at Enfield. Right. So it had virtually everything. It was a sort of mega case. And also there were loads of recordings. Yeah. That's the point, which is what the Apple TV documentary has used. They've used the recordings. Yeah.
Well, listen, regardless of whether you believe or not, it sounds like a fascinating show to watch and find out more about. The Enfield Poltergeist is out tomorrow on Apple TV. Thank you so much, Roz.
Thank you so much for joining us. Just a quick